Crow House played a crucial role, I argue, in my larger project, in Poor's turning towards craft. And it became a place of artistic experimentation in various craft media, including woodcut, such as this Christmas card, furniture, and batik. At Crow House, Poor also taught himself to make pottery, and the results of his experimentation, are everywhere. And you can see wonderful tile embellishments. This on the chimney, this medallion, the only real written reference to Marion Dorn's being there. Unfortunately, their marriage didn't last, and she ran off to Paris and then London in 1923. I don't think Crow House was her idea of New York City living. And these become progressively more modern with time. And wonderful tile stove. This lighting fixture, great Art Deco piece, and the glass is by Maurice Heaton. Many of you may know Maurice Heaton's glasswork. And then many windows, metal casement windows, abutted with tiles that reference the occupants, in this case, Peter Poor, his son, and that's his dog's sister. And somehow, these more modern tiles never really seem out of step with the old world charm that pervades the house. In February 1921, 3 months after moving in, Poor wrote to his friend, the painter Burger Sanson in Kansas. He writes, "I'm going to start a pottery, to do large, simple, decorative pieces, to take the place of teaching as an income maker and also give us joy in the doing." And he gently prepared his parents, suggesting that it would primarily be Marion's work. Well, Marion was already pretty busy commuting back and forth to New York as a textile designer. For inspiration, he looked to the collections at the Metropolitan, and here's just an early view. This is our only early view of the pottery with his son Peter and his great wheel there. We'll see other images of that. For inspiration, he looked to the collections of the Metropolitan Museum, most famously at the Cretan, at these cups made by the Stone Age Cretan potters, which he illustrates in his 1958 book of pottery. And for technical advice, he consulted a number of reference books. The Potter's Crafts, some of you may know, by Charles Fergus Benz, who, of course, was the great head of Alfred, the New York Ceramic School. Also, a book called Pottery for Artists, Craftsmen, and Teachers by George Cox, who taught closer to home at Teachers College. And he also had something called Lead Glazed Pottery by none other than Edwin Atlee Barber, who was the indomitable curator, director, archaeologist, many things at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Poor first made pots from clay, dug in his own yard, and soon using clay from the local brickyards in Haverstraw and beyond. And he threw on this the wheel that we saw before, but here it is in the corner, which is cobbled from old washing machine parts. And by early April, which seems astonishing to me, he was firing his first kilns. An early notebook records the progress, various forms, recipes for slips and glazes, and the firing temperatures, which all remain low fire. His first kiln, a round kerosene-burning Revelation kiln here in the corner, was a gift by Morris de Camp Crawford. Some of you may know who that is. He was the editor of Women's Wear and associated with the Museum of Natural History, and it's still there, as you see at Crow House. And here's just a quick view of the mill house looking from the painting studio. And imagine this as a pond. The creek was diverted to run water through a slough to a wheel, and this is where Poor ground his pottery glazes. Not because he's, he is very interested in these sort of sustainable things, but they didn't have electricity until 1928. Once he did, he moved it into the pottery. Not surprisingly, many of Poor's pots were dishes, as he liked to call them, made for friends, like these for a neighbor, Amelia Davenport, who was a great textile or costume designer. And he continued to do this throughout his life. He enjoyed making plates for weddings and births and birthdays, and his skill at calligraphy is evident in these commemorative wares. And I hope you'll note this wonderful English motto that encircles this birth plate. Earth I am, it is most true, disdain me not, for so are you. His early pottery notebook indicates several attempts of making a dish for Morris, we assume Morris de Camp Crawford again, and also for Marion Dorn. And he made stunning portraits of his friends, and this happens to be a personal favorite of mine, now at the Yale Art Gallery, showing the screenwriter Ben Hecht with his name on the side, the date. And it's quite a generous size plate. This is 13 inches. While Poor fully intended pottery to be his moneymaker, he began his venture with the arts and crafts aim of providing beautiful handmade pottery that would also be affordable. Initially, before he even brought his pots to Montrose, he tried selling them through the Belle Maison Gallery, which was located in Wanamaker's department store. And I don't know too much about it, but I suspect these pots look something like these three here. With orders by the dozen, as he recalled in his book of pottery, he quickly realized that he must either become a small factory and have helpers, or stick to solitude and ask higher prices. Ever mindful of his need to make a living, Poor decided that selling through an art gallery would provide the autonomy he sought. And I think we're kind of glad that he did. As if acknowledging the transition from anonymous craft to self-conscious art making, Poor marked his pots. His initials appear on many of the fronts of the early painted pieces, and almost, very close to the beginning, he's also using this crow house stamp. Well, first in size, and that's a very rare example. And it's really just a little line drawing of a house with a door, and then what looks like a giant television antenna is a crow kind of arching over the house. And you can see it here in these stamps. And then from the late 1920s, Poor increasingly used his conjoined initials, and you can see that here with the HVP, and then the date. Always glad when potters sign and date their works. And this really remains his hallmark until he died in 1970. He often also marks his price in pencil. You can often see these on the wares, $15, $20, $50. And here's a rare, just a kind of an improvised price list from 1924, which this sketch syncs up nicely to the plate over here, which is also quite a generous scale, showing Diana, the huntress, and her dogs.